Since you started your notary business, strive for excellence. Introducing the book, Notary Operational Excellence by Derek Spruill. Build your business on a beacon of precision and trust with expert advice. Check out Notary Operational Excellence by Derek Spruill from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Books of Million, Bookshop.org, Mobile Notary by DerekSpruill.com, or download from Kindle today.
Welcome to Notary Knowledge. I am Eddie.
And I am Marylyn.
And before we jump into today's topic, we really want to remind you to check out our video podcast, No Notary, with Eddie Montes Travis.
Yes, and of course, don't forget to check out Marylyn's 90 Seconds of Notary.
Definitely. You know, we love bringing you guys this content, so please rate the show, subscribe, and share the podcast with others. It really helps us out.
It really does. And just a quick reminder for everyone, please encourage listeners to buy the Notary Knowledge books by Derek Spruill and visit the Notary Knowledge website. Lots of great resources there.
For sure. So today we are getting into a topic we sort of circled around in prior episodes, but today we are bringing an experienced, high-level perspective to it.
Right. We are looking at the incredibly high-stakes world of post-appointment data protection for mobile notaries.
Yeah, and picture this, right? You, the consumer, you've just finished signing a mountain of paperwork for a mortgage refinance.
Oh, yeah, the hand cramp is real.
Exactly. Your hand is physically cramping from signing your name like 50 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch the mobile notary pack up that massive 150-page stack of paper, zip up their bag, they shake your hand, and then walk out your front door. And for you, the stressful part is over. You can finally just relax on the couch.
But for that notary walking down your driveway, the most intense part of their job has literally just begun.
Right. Because the moment that door closes, those documents transform into a highly volatile asset.
It really is a massive security operation, and honestly, most consumers are completely oblivious to it.
Yeah.
We aren't just talking about, a person being careful not to drop a folder on their way to the post office. We are talking about an intense regulatory web.
Like federal level stuff.
Exactly. This operation is governed by massive frameworks, like the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act.
Often called GLBA.
Right, GLBA. And it's governed by the American Land Title Association, or ALTA, specifically looking at their best practices guidelines under Pillars 3 and 4.
Wow, okay.
And on top of that, it's strictly monitored under the National Notary Association's Code of Conduct.
Wait, okay, GLBA. ALTA best practices. Those sound like acronyms for Wall Street bankers or like corporate compliance officers.
They do.
Why are federal financial laws dictating the behavior of the person who just, drank coffee in my kitchen?
Well, because that person in your kitchen is functioning as a critical extension of the banking system.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act was designed to force financial institutions to protect consumer data. But, banks don't close loans themselves.
Right. They outsource it.
Exactly. They use third-party vendors, title companies, mobile notaries. So those federal mandates, they trickle all the way down to that individual sitting at your table.
That is heavy.
It is. ALTA's Pillar 3 specifically dictates how that consumer data must be shielded, and then Pillar 4 governs the actual real estate settlement procedures.
Oh.
Because if a mobile notary mishandles your data, the exposure can result in devastating identity theft for you, and honestly, massive business-ending legal liability for the title company.
So the stakes are truly existential here.
Absolutely existential.
So before we get into the crazy, James Bond level security measures of how they actually lock this stuff down, we really need to understand what is being protected.
Yes, the definition is key.
Because looking at the sources, the definition of what needs to be guarded is far more encompassing than I think most people realize. We're talking about NPI, right? Non-public personal information.
NPI is the beating heart of this entire security apparatus. And what usually surprises people is just how broad the definition of NPI has become under these current regulations.
Yeah, because most of us assume we're just talking about the obvious red flags, right?
Yeah.
Like your social security number or maybe your driver's license number.
Exactly. But under GLBA and ALTA standards, NPI extends so much further than that.
Right, because looking at the literature, it includes things like financial account numbers, the total amount of your loan, the specific interest rate you locked in. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. The sources say that even the mere fact that a specific person is refinancing with a specific lender, like just the fact they are doing it, is considered highly sensitive NPI.
Yes. The context of the transaction itself is protected data.
Wow.
Let me give you a prime example from the industry guidelines that really highlights this low-tech breach danger.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's say a notary finishes a closing at your house. They go down the street to a coffee shop, bump into a friend, and casually say, "Oh, hey, I just closed a loan for Mrs. Smith. Remember her? She was our old middle school lunch lady."
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
Come on, that's just basic small talk. I mean, isn't it a bit paranoid to treat conversational details like that as a serious data breach?
I know it sounds intense.
It just feels incredibly strict for what is essentially an administrative interaction.
I get why it feels paranoid, but if you look at the mechanics of modern cybercrime, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
Well, threat actors, identity thieves, scam rings, they don't always need to steal your social security number to launch a devastating attack. They rely on something called social engineering.
Okay, right.
Scammers are basically putting together a puzzle, and that casual conversation at the coffee shop is the missing piece.
Okay, walk me through how that actually works in the real world. How does a scammer weaponize a conversation about a lunch lady?
Okay, so let's say a criminal overhears that Mrs. Smith is currently in the middle of a transaction with, say, Quicken Loans.
Okay.
The criminal doesn't have her bank details, but they have context. They can use that context to launch a highly targeted spear phishing attack.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, the criminal spoof calls her phone, so the caller ID literally says Quicken Loans. They say, "Hi, Mrs. Smith, this is your lender. Your notary just dropped off the paperwork. Everything looks great, but there was a slight miscalculation on the final closing costs. We need you to wire the final $3,000 to this updated account to prevent your loan from failing."
Oh, wow. And because the scammer knows she literally just signed the papers an hour ago, she completely believes them. The context makes the scam credible.
You nailed it. She wires the money to a fraudulent offshore account, and those funds are gone forever.
That is terrifying.
The context is the weapon. Threat actors literally buy trigger leads or monitor social media just to find out who is transacting.
I see the disconnect in my thinking now. It's not about the notary acting like a paper pusher.
No, not at all.
It's more like the notary is a doctor bound by HIPAA regulations, or like a courier carrying state secrets. You don't get to casually chat about your patient's medical diagnosis, and you don't get to chat about your signer's financial moves.
Exactly. The Notary Signing Agent Code of Conduct, specifically Guiding Principle 6, explicitly states that the notary must respect the privacy of the signer and keep the very fact that a transaction occurred completely confidential.
You are a vault.
You are a vault, both professionally and physically.
So let's talk about the physical side then. Since the definition of NPI is so impossibly broad, or even a draft of a document is dangerous, the physical handling of that 100 to 200 page loan package right after the signing have to be flawless.
It does.
Looking at these protocols, it requires an intense physical chain of custody.
Chain of custody is the critical concept here, and honestly, this is where we need to discuss post-session security audits.
Oh, right, the audits.
Yeah, let's start with the immediate in-home protocols. Say you are at the dining room table, and the notary makes a mistake on a notarial certificate.
Like a smudge or something.
Exactly. A signature is in the wrong place, or the stamp smudges. They have to line through it and initial it. But what if a page is entirely botched and needs to be completely swapped out for a fresh copy?
I mean, I would assume they just crumple up the botched draft and toss it in the signer's kitchen trash can.
They are strictly prohibited from doing that. Leaving any discarded paper containing NTI behind is a massive violation. They must retain physical custody of that mistake, pack it up with their own supplies, take it with them, and destroy it off-site.
Wow.
And they can't just throw it in their home garbage either. It has to go through a cross-cut shredder at their home or office so it cannot be reconstructed.
That is wild.
Yeah.
The notary is essentially taking their own highly sensitive garbage with them when they leave.
Yes.
Okay, so the notary packs up the perfect completed 150-page package. They grab their cross-cut shredder trash. They do their little post-session security audit of the room, and they walk out to their car. I always pictured notaries just tossing the manila envelope onto the passenger seat, turning on the radio, and driving to FedEx.
If a notary does that, they are violating massive compliance standards. Documents cannot ever sit on a car seat, even temporarily.
Not even for a 5-minute drive.
Not even for a minute. A smash and grab at a red light takes 3 seconds. The absolute bare minimum is that the documents must be locked in a trunk, completely out of sight.
Okay, that makes sense.
But for maximum compliance, especially for mobile notaries doing this full time, the trunk isn't even considered secure enough.
Wait, the trunk isn't enough. What do they use? A safe?
Essentially, yes. The sources highlight that compliant, high-volume notaries use specialized vehicle-mounted lockboxes.
You're kidding.
No, we are talking about brands like BAW-SS Strongbox or Tuffy Security products. These aren't just like plastic bins you buy at a hardware store. These are 16-gauge cold-rolled steel vaults with anti-pry recessed doors.
In a regular car.
Yes, and they don't just sit in the trunk. They are physically bolted directly to the vehicle's chassis.
Unbelievable.
They use grade 8 mounting hardware, which is automotive industry strength, meaning you can't just kick the box loose or rip it out with a crowbar.
Right.
Furthermore, they are secured with double-bitted 10-tumbler Medeco locks. Those are some of the most pick-resistant locks on the commercial market. They are basically building a bank vault into the floorboards of a Honda Civic.
That completely changes my mental image of this job. My analogy here is that the notary's vehicle is basically functioning as an armored cash transit truck, but it's hiding in plain sight as a regular everyday sedan.
Hiding in plain sight is an actual documented strategy. The National Notary Association guidelines explicitly state that the notary's laptop bag, tote, or briefcase should be completely plain and unbranded.
Oh, interesting.
You shouldn't have certified mobile notary or loan signing agent stitched in bright letters on the side of your bag.
Right, because that's basically a neon sign saying, hey, break my window, I have hundreds of social security numbers and bank routing digits inside.
Exactly. You do not want to draw any attention to yourself. The goal is to move the documents from the signer's home to the steel vault in the car and then directly to the shipping carrier as invisibly as possible.
Which brings up the actual handoff. So the notary drives to ship the documents back to the title company. But they can't just use one of those FedEx or UPS drop boxes sitting on the corner of a street, can they?
Never. Dropping NPI into an unattended metal box on a sidewalk is a massive break in the chain of custody.
Right, because anyone could get into it.
Yeah, someone could fish the envelope out with a sticky trap, or the box itself could be pried open at night. The notary must physically walk into the shipping center, hand the package directly to a live clerk, and watch them scan it into the system.
To get the receipt.
They have to obtain a physical tracking scan receipt.
Because that receipt proves exactly when and where the legal liability transferred from the notary to the courier. If the package goes missing an hour later, the notary has proof they do their job.
It protects the consumer's data, and it protects the notary's career.
Okay, before we move on to the digital risks, we're going to take a very quick second to remind you to pick up the Notary Knowledge books by Derek Sproul and visit the Notary Knowledge website. Okay, so the physical paper is locked down tighter than Fort Knox.
It is.
But, we are living in a digital world. Lenders want everything instantly. Doesn't the demand for immediate digital copies completely undermine all this physical security?
It is a huge issue.
Because if the physical documents are locked in a 16-gauge steel vault,
Yeah.
but the digital ghosts of those documents can leak to the entire world in milliseconds, well, that seems like a massive vulnerability.
It is arguably the most dangerous vulnerability in the modern process. Often, title companies and lenders demand that the notary scan and send the documents back digitally immediately after the signing.
Right, the dreaded scan backs.
Exactly, so they can review the files, check for errors, and fund the loan faster. This introduces massive operational risk.
And the sources highlight an everyday piece of technology that is basically a ticking time bomb: smartphone cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, if I'm a notary and a title company says they urgently need a copy of the signer's driver's license, my first instinct is to just pull up my iPhone and snap a picture of it on the kitchen table.
Doing that is a catastrophic data breach.
But wait, I'm just taking a photo on a phone in my pocket. I'm not texting it to anyone. Why is the native camera app so dangerous?
Because modern mobile operating systems are designed for consumer convenience, not regulatory compliance. The moment you take a photo using your phone's native camera app, background synchronization features kick in immediately.
Oh, the cloud.
Yes. The phone takes that high-resolution image of the driver's license and instantly uploads it to personal cloud vaults like Apple iCloud, Google Photos, or a personal Dropbox.
Wow. So within 2 seconds of me taking that photo, the signer's ID is sitting on a server somewhere, completely outside the notary's professional control, tied to my personal email and whatever weak password I use for my iCloud.
And that data sits there forever unless manually deleted.
Yikes.
To combat this, signing agents are required to use containerized, secure scanning software. These are specialized apps like EncryptScan.
How do those work?
Well, these applications are sandboxed, meaning they completely bypass the phone's native camera roll. The image is captured directly within the app, heavily encrypted on the spot, and sent directly to the secure transaction platform. The image never touches your personal photo gallery.
That is smart. But from what I'm reading, even if you use a containerized app, the job still isn't done.
Nope.
The sources say the physical devices themselves must be forensically wiped. Notaries have to use data erasure utilities, like an app called iShredder, to scrub their phones.
They do, and it goes back to how computer memory actually works. When you delete a file on your phone or computer, the system doesn't actually erase the data right away.
Right, it just hides it.
It just deletes the invisible pointer to that file, marking that space as unallocated and available to be written over eventually. The data itself is still sitting there in the flash memory.
So a skilled hacker could run a recovery program and pull up all those deleted mortgage documents.
Easily. That's why notaries use data erasure utilities to permanently overwrite that unallocated free space. They have to do it to Department of Defense standards, specifically the DoD 5220.22M standard.
Department of Defense standards on a personal phone.
Yep.
The app essentially writes random ones and zeros over the free space multiple times, overwriting it so thoroughly that even a forensic recovery team couldn't pull the ghost of that image out of the hardware.
It is extreme, but when you explain the mechanics of deleted files, it makes total sense.
Right.
But there is another digital risk here that completely caught me off guard, and it involves hardware, not software. The stark warning about retail copy centers.
Oh, this is a trap that catches a lot of new professionals.
Because the guidelines strictly prohibit notaries from taking these massive 150-page packages to places like Staples or OfficeMax or a local library to use their commercial scanners.
Mm-hmm.
But if a phone camera is that risky, why not just go to Staples? I walk in, I feed the paper into the machine, it scans, I take my paper, and I leave. Where's the cybersecurity loophole in me using a public piece of plastic and glass?
It comes down to understanding how commercial multifunction printers actually process high volumes of data.
They aren't like the little inkjet printer sitting on your desk at home, which just pulls data directly from a cable and prints it. Commercial scanners are essentially powerful, independent computers. They have large internal hard drives or solid-state storage caches built right into them.
Okay, so they need a hard drive to manage the queue of jobs.
Yes. When you feed a 150-page loan package through the automatic document feeder at a retail store, the machine doesn't just pass the image through.
Right.
It scans and buffers those high-resolution images, saving them directly onto its internal hard drive to process the print or email job without crashing.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Those cached images of social security numbers, bank routing digits, and loan applications remain on that machine's hard drive long after the notary has paid their bill and walked out the door.
That's awful.
The NPI is left completely exposed. Subsequent users who know how to access the machine's administrative directory, or the technicians who eventually service, resell, or recycle those copiers, they can easily retrieve the digital ghosts of every single mortgage document ever scanned on that machine. It is a massive, silent, and highly lucrative leak of NPI.
That is genuinely terrifying. I mean, it completely reframes how I look at everyday technology. You really have to view every single node in the network, every phone, every printer, every app, as a potential sieve for data.
Every link in the chain has to be hardened.
So we've locked the physical paper in a steel trunk, we've bypassed the smartphone camera rolls, and we've avoided the commercial printer trap.
Right.
We move to the final piece of this puzzle, the only permanent record the notary actually retains for their own files, which is their official journal.
Yes. The physical notary journal is a highly sensitive ledger. It contains the signatures, addresses, thumbprints in some states, and ID details of everyone the notary has ever worked with.
So they have to guard that too.
Absolutely. The NSA Code of Conduct, Standard 6.2, requires that this physical journal be heavily guarded during the appointment itself. When a notary is at a table with you, they have to use physical privacy guards or specialized opaque shields over the earlier pages.
Because the current signer cannot be allowed to accidentally look down and read the NPI of the person the notary helped 3 hours ago.
It's a physical manifestation of data compartmentalization. You only get to see your line on the page.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, the industry is undergoing a massive shift away from these physical journals and physical paper packages altogether.
Right, which brings us to the Secure Notarization Act. This federal legislation is pushing to expand remote online notarization, or ON, nationwide.
It's a complete paradigm shift for the industry.
Yeah, this allows consumers to sit in their living room, log onto a laptop, and sign their mortgage completely remotely using a webcam, two-way audiovisual communication, and digital signatures.
And because the notary isn't physically there to check your ID, ALTA Best Practices Pillar 4 mandates rigorous digital identity verification for these processes.
What does that look like?
We are talking about layers of government ID analysis, dynamically checking non-public databases to verify the signer's history with out-of-wallet questions, and utilizing biometric liveness detection.
Okay, I have to point out the absolute irony here.
Let's hear it.
We just spent this entire discussion talking about how the industry is terrified of digital leaks. We're forensically wiping smartphones because we don't trust an Apple Cloud sync, and we're treating Staples retail copiers like active crime scenes.
Right.
Yet the Secure Notarization Act is pushing for fully digital, remote, audiovisual recorded closings. How does the industry balance the convenience of RON with the massive cybersecurity risks we just established?
That is the central tension of modern real estate finance. The balance relies entirely on the architecture of the RON platforms.
Okay.
Unlike an iPhone taking a picture and blindly syncing to a consumer-grade server, RON platforms are built from the ground up for compliance. For instance, the identity verification isn't just looking at a webcam.
Right.
The liveness detection software makes you turn your head, it tracks your eye movement, and it maps the 3D contours of your face to ensure a scammer isn't just holding up a photo or using an AI deepfake.
And what about the digital documents themselves? How do we know a hacker hasn't intercepted the digital PDF and changed the loan amount before it gets to the bank?
That is solved by tamper-evident technology, specifically cryptographic hashing.
Hashing?
Yeah. When a digital document is sealed on a RON platform, the software runs the contents of that document through a complex mathematical algorithm. This generates a unique string of characters called a hash. Think of it like a digital mathematical wax seal.
So the hash is tied to the exact contents of the document.
Yes. If a hacker intercepts the document and alters even a single pixel, let's say they change a comma into a period, or change a 3 to an 8 in the bank routing number, the math completely changes.
Oh, wow.
The hash no longer matches the document, the seal breaks, a digital alarm bell rings, and everyone on the platform knows the document is invalid and tampered with.
I see. So it's about shifting the trust away from the individual notary's personal devices, their messy car, or their local Wi-Fi, and moving that trust into a highly regulated, audited, enterprise-grade digital environment.
Exactly. The human element is often the weakest link. RON attempts to eliminate that vulnerability by forcing the entire transaction into a secure digital tunnel, fortified by multi-factor authentication, biometrics, and cryptographic math.
It's basically taking the 16-gauge steel lockbox out of the trunk of the Honda Civic and replacing it with military-grade encryption in the cloud.
Both systems require extreme vigilance, whether it's guarding physical paper with cross-cut shredders or guarding digital packets with hashing algorithms. The core directive of the notary remains exactly the same: protect the non-public personal information at all costs.
It is incredible. Okay, before we wrap up today, we have our favorite segment. Good question. What would you do?
Oh, I love this segment. Lightning round time.
Let's do it. We have 5 quick scenarios from our listeners. First up, Caleb from Tennessee. He asks, what do you do if the signer wants you to read the documents to them? The reader scenario.
You absolutely cannot do that. You are not an attorney, so interpreting or even reading the documents can cross into the unauthorized practice of law. Just politely decline.
Spot on. Next is Mia from Oregon. The conspiracy. What if the signer goes off on a wild political rant during the signing?
Yeah, you just nod politely, stay neutral, and gently redirect them right back to the signature line. Keep it moving. Don't engage.
Love that. Okay, Wyatt from Montana. The signer offers you dinner. How do you decline food?
Politely say you just ate or mention a dietary restriction. You want to keep the boundaries professional without offending them.
Perfect. Grace from Idaho. Screaming. A domestic dispute breaks out between the signers.
Excuse yourself immediately, pack up your bag, and leave. Your physical safety always comes first.
Definitely. And last one, Luke from New Mexico. Dating. The signer asks you out on a date.
No, absolutely not. That completely crosses professional boundaries. Just laugh it off politely and leave.
A great advice. If you have scenarios, remember to email your questions to Derek@DerekSproul.com. We will try to answer as soon as possible at the end of our shows.
Please do. We love hearing from you.
So, to summarize the intense gauntlet of security, a mobile notary runs every single day. I mean, they are managing their own cross-cut, shredded drafts, hauling plain, unbranded bags into 16-gauge, cold-rolled steel vaults bolted to their car's chassis, intentionally avoiding drop boxes to get physical scan receipts, bypassing smartphone camera rolls with containerized apps, forensically shredding unallocated digital free space to DoD standards, and navigating biometric liveness detection and cryptographic hashing.
It's a lot.
All of this just to keep your financial identity safe during a routine refinance.
It definitely gives you a profound respect for the professionals who navigate this regulatory web every single day.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining the conversation and connecting with this exploration today. Learning the mechanics behind these rules really changes how you look at that giant stack of paper on the dining room table.
It does, and I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've spent this entire time exploring the extreme military-grade measures a single notary takes to protect your data for a few hours while it's in transit. But under LTA best practices, that title policy is eventually finalized, and the deed of trust is publicly recorded at the county clerk's office within 30 days.
Oh, true.
As local government archives become fully digitized and globally searchable on the internet, are those massive, permanent public record systems actually keeping pace with the same level of security that the lone mobile notary is expected to maintain?
Wow. You survived the steel vault, the forensic data wipe, and the biometric scan, only to have the county clerk post the final result on a public server. That is a fascinating, slightly terrifying thought to leave on, but a vital one.
It really makes you think.
Don't just be listeners of the knowledge, be doers of the knowledge. This is Notary Knowledge. Until next time.
Exec producer Derek Spruill, lead writer Marylyn Lee Trotter, graphics Eddie Montes Travis, music Thomas Bynum, produced by Magnificent Works Business Solutions.
Are you truly protected as a notary public? Navigate the complex legal framework with confidence using Notary Law and Liability by Derek Spruill. This essential guide provides a deep dive into state regulations, ensuring you stay compliant across jurisdictions. Learn how to properly use errors and omissions insurance and master the critical boundaries to strictly avoid the unauthorized practice of law. Protect yourself, your commission, and your business. Get your copy of Notary Law and Liability by Derek Spruill on Amazon.